And we're back. Welcome back to another FPL video where, unfortunately, despite my best efforts, the poor run of form has continued. Yet again, finishing below the average for game week 5 with 55, albeit a slightly better week. But the gambles so far have just not been paying off for me. Like I say, 55 points, which puts me outside the top 6 million for the game week rank and keeps me below the average once again. I can't really have any complaints though. Verbruggen, I thoroughly expected Brighton to carry on their defensive form against Forest, but it just didn't happen for them. Van de Ven only got one. Digne only got one. Haaland, Rodgers, Salah, Palmer all contributed, but it wasn't enough because everyone else just seemed to pick the right players. And unfortunately, it means that I stay 91st in my own division, which is quite baffling even of itself, considering how many people are in the league, that I actually did not move. I stayed in 91st. But we have another new leader at the top of the board. It is Jason D'Souza, one of the long-term members on the channel. They have found their way to the top of the table. They got 80 points last week. And if we look at their team, that is because they had Trent, Gabriel, Henderson, Rodgers, Wood, Haaland, Salah, and Smith Rowe. So contributors all round. And then you look at the fact they had Mbermo on the bench as well, who didn't even come on for them. Very, very solid week for them. And it means that they currently sit top of the Esso 99 League with an 11-point gap to Tumelo down in second. So fair play to you for that. What this has all meant is, despite my plan to actually go ahead and make changes, to not make change until the international break, I have made a double change. I have put in Saka and Diaz for Minter and Salah. And yes, after making all that hoo-ah at the start of the year about you don't need Salah and you don't need Haaland, and then Salah and Haaland absolutely smashed it, so I put in Salah and I put in Haaland. Arguably, they've then both underperformed. Meanwhile, Luis Diaz has been fantastic and Bukayo Saka has continued to get points every single week so far. And now Saka's next two games are at home to Leicester and at home to Southampton. So for me, he is absolutely completely unignorable right now. You need to have Bukayo Saka in your team for the next 2 weeks. So I've made the choice. I had 2 free transfers. I've taken out Salah to put in Diaz, who now has more points than Mohamed Salah, I believe. Yes, he does. He has 2 more points over Salah. So I've gone for Diaz over Salah, and I've gone for Saka in there as well. So hopefully that now means that we do have more points available to us in this squad. Sadly, João Pedro is now injured, but I wouldn't have picked him anyway. That is why we preloaded Kepa and Evanilson when we did our wild card. So they now both come in for me this week at home to Southampton. And the rest of the team, I still think has a pretty good chance of scoring points. Canate against Wolves has a good chance. Robinson against Forest isn't ideal. Digne against Ipswich. Digne could be missing through injury, in which case we've still got Kilman and Van de Ven available to us on the bench. But then this front five, in my opinion, should all do something this weekend. Palmer at home to Brighton. Saka at home to Leicester as captain. Eza against Everton, who have been terrible defensively. Rodgers against Ipswich, finally started contributing last weekend. Diaz is on fire. Haaland just continues to score. And Evanilson, still looking for his first goals, surely at home to Southampton has a good chance. So that is going to be my team for the upcoming week. As I said, if you're going to be looking at making transfers this week, for me, like I've already said, the best players to pick up this week have to be players from Arsenal, the likes of Saka, Havertz, maybe even a Martinelli with the suspension now to Trossard, Gabriel or Saliba at the back. Neto could be a fantastic shout. It looks like Raya could miss the next couple of games. So Neto for Arsenal as their backup keeper, as someone who you could just slip in for a couple of weeks. He's only 4.3 million. He's going to start the next 2 games. And like I say, Leicester and Southampton at home. So if you want a quick, cheap transfer, maybe you've already got Raya as your main goalkeeper and you don't have other Arsenal players, you can potentially slip in Neto as your backup because of how well Arsenal are defensively at the moment. So that would be my advice in terms of that. You could also still potentially go for a couple of Chelsea players. As I've already spoken about, I've got Palmer, but Nicholas Jackson is absolutely flying. But going forward, I think it's time to start looking away from Chelsea because yes, they've got Brighton, then Forest. Although Forest still remain unbeaten at the moment, so do Brighton. And then Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, United away, Arsenal at home. The fixtures for Chelsea are going to start getting tougher. But if you're still looking for a cheapish striker, Nicholas Jackson for the next couple of weeks could be a good one. Like I've already spoken about as well, Liverpool players seem to be the way to go at the moment, and Luis Diaz is the most transferred player in this week, and they've now got Wolves and then Palace. So still remit for them to do well as well. If you're looking for players from obscure teams to get in for the next couple of weeks, again, it's got to be Bournemouth, in my opinion. Evan Nilsson has now even gone down in price, despite having some fantastic fixtures over the next couple of weeks. But then again, long term, it's not looking good. If you want to be really, really out there, go to the form guide, where you'll see the likes of Dwight McNeil and Mavididi. And if you look at what their fixtures are going forward, Mavididi, after playing Arsenal, has Bournemouth, Southampton, Forest and Ipswich. But Dwight McNeil has the most chances created in the Premier League so far this season. Despite Everton being without a win and at the bottom of the Premier League table, he's on 24 points, so far this season. He's contributing. Like I said, he's got the most chances created so far in the Premier League this season. And look at this run of fixtures. Palace, Newcastle, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford. So now could be the time to pick up a Dwight McNeil or potentially even a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because they're cheap and they are contributing. So that's my sort of outside rogue picks for this week. But yeah, that's what I'm going for my team. As always, let me know what you're going for down in the comment section below. Have I already completely screwed up my season now that I'm over 100 points away from the top of my own league? Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.